Hello there, Hackwiffin speaking, and I'm here with another zine video, finally. Uh, Quite a few people have been asking for my zine collection, and I started doing a video of all of that, but it was a lot of footage, it was a lot of time. Not just in making the video, but it was just a lot. And I don't think it would be too terribly interesting on its own, since it's just me talking about my experiences and how I felt about the zine. And I kind of look back and I don't like openly talking about, even though there's a lot of zines I clearly enjoyed working on, and the ones that I didn't enjoy working on as much, I kind of kept those opinions to myself. But it still came across that way, that there was definitely some zines that had much smoother timelines than others. And I just didn't want that video to be up there with those opinions, even though it was kind of a nice idea at first. Mostly because I don't want zines to look back and be like, oh, she didn't enjoy our time with us. That's sad. Or why didn't you say this or that? Because a lot of things were things I noticed looking back. And so I much rather just leave it up to the imagination, because most projects I absolutely adored. If there's a project I haven't adored, I probably did say something to them at one point or another. Oh, but either way, I wanted to utilize that footage still, so it is video stock now for my videos on conversations like this one. So you want to be a zine head mod, because that's totally what I'm going to title it, or something along those lines. I'll probably include fandom in the name, because fandom zines are different types of projects than regular zines. I mean, they're all zines. Zines is a big overlay, but there's definitely different categories. We won't get into that very much today. So, a lot of people want to become a head mod for a variety of reasons. A common reason is because the project they want to be a part of or want to start either hasn't happened before, has happened years ago and people are interested in again, or just isn't around or anything that you can join. A lot of people want to be a head mod because they have trouble getting into zines as well, and they want to be a part of it, and they want to share their own vision on an idea. Like, that's good and all. It's actually how a lot of people get into making more zines, and it's how that I made it sound like it wasn't, but it is good. That, like, it gets a lot of more people into zines, but there's a lot of things that people get into making zines, and they're not fully prepped. They do proper mod applications and stuff like that, but then sometimes they're not ready, and the other mods have to carry through the project. I haven't ran into this too much as a mod myself. Usually people have a really good grasp on what they're doing and the teams I've worked at, but I've definitely seen it as a contributor where there was mods that did not know what they were doing and the other mods had to take over, the head mod steps down, someone else picks up. And sometimes when this stuff happens, it's not because the mod couldn't handle it. Sometimes it's just literally because of outsized reasoning. I've seen mods leave because of sickness, lack of time, work schedules changing and preventing them from doing stuff. But regardless, there is zines out there. I have been blessed not to be a part of very many that have mods that are head mods or mod teams in general that just do not have the knowledge. So we're going to do a quick basic rundown, and then I'll probably do some follow-up videos on some other things like finance mod positions, art mod positions, Discord manager, social media management, shipping, production, all that fun stuff. We'll get into that a bit later, but for now, we're going to talk about being a head mod and some certain things you need to look in for. One of the things I did not list on my little note list is I didn't list getting together a team with knowledge. Like, it's nice that you want to run a project with your friends, but you probably, if you guys don't do your studying, at least get someone who has. And be willing to listen to those people. I've seen mods that are less experienced as head mods, but they're 100% open to listening to the mod team they get on. If a finance mod says, hey, this financially doesn't work very well, let's think about this another way, I've seen them work that out with those people. and having an open ear to listen. If you are learning, if this is your first project, or if you are starting your first project, you have to be willing to listen to criticism. If if a finance person says, hey, we got under 100 followers, we can't really realistically do a zine over 100 pages because that's too much to plan to sell unless we get more people by the time pre-orders open, I would listen to that, because you don't want to fall short. You want to have a project that is reasonable to meet expectations, to sell, and to get it to your contributors with a free copy. If it's a digital project, you can have more leeway. If you do not know anything about production, if you do not want to look into production, if you don't want to deal with production, I highly recommend looking into a digital zine and starting one of those instead. With that saying, and you can skip over this, I'll try to put a timestamp in it. If you want to do a physical zine, which are very nice, those are usually the zines I partake in because I like having a physical book. You need to know your basic knowledge of printing. You need to know like what kind of things you're going to be looking into, what you're interested in printing. You need to know about bleed. You need to know about formatting and finding a proper formatter if you cannot do it yourself. And just general knowledge on printing and stuff. I recommend sizes that are really common in printing for your first time printing. I usually do bigger zines because 8.5 by 11 is a very common printing size. It's actually that in A4 are the most common sizes. It was A4 or A5 when I last looked into it. But it's one of the most common sizes, and since printers set up to print it all the time, even though it's a bigger size book, it actually is not terribly more expensive than printing like an 8x8 or a 7.5 by a 5 book zine. Like, it's actually not terribly more, and sometimes it's relatively mentioned cheaper. And if you're doing fixing your zine, having the bigger book would mean that people have less pages overall, and it could actually save you money than doing a smaller size. So if you are including fix, I highly recommend getting a bigger size for those reasons at least. Another thing that you need to be aware of when running a zine as a head mod is you need to have basic management knowledge. And I don't mean the management like passing on the dues and not doing anything kind of management knowledge. I mean, you need to be able to work with your team, meet goals, set goals, and expectations. You need to be able to, hey, this person hasn't responded in like a week. We've been trying to contact them. We want to make sure they're okay. It keeps going on, and then you're probably going to need to be the one to kind of send the message, hey, you got 48 hours to reply. We're dropping you from this project because you are not contacting us. You need to be able to give those hard decisions. And I know those are rough, but I've literally seen artists ghost a zine project for like 2 months. You need to be willing to take on the project as a whole. The project will not run itself. If you are the head mod, it is your job to run that project. It is not anybody else's job but yours. The other people's job is to help run that project and run certain aspects. But if you are the head mod, you are to keep the ball rolling. You are to make sure people are making check-ins. You are to make sure you're giving exceptions to reasonable amounts and working with people. Because let's face it, this is a group project. You can't, if you're nowhere near check-in and someone just needs if someone needs even a whole 2 weeks to get their first check-in because of life, they're probably fine if you have another 2 months of production. Do consider other people, but you do need to run the project and help run it. You need to help set the standards for the project. I've seen zines do no extensions on turn-ins, and that has always turned out bad. So I will mention, so while you're keeping expectations, maybe have a rule where, hey, you need to contact a mod before the due date if you need an extension, or at least before the due date's passed. If you don't contact a mod, we'll contact you, and then if you don't respond from there within a certain given timeline, there's tons of ways to hold a standard without being rude or without being too enforceful. There's a lot of good ways to run this. You also need to have time to be there for them. I do multiple zines. I work a full-time job. I work 40 to 50 hours a week, depending. And I'm still having time to make this video. I'm still having time to work on multiple projects, finishing early. I actually finished 2 pictures early really recently. They're like on first check-in. And I'm way ahead. Don't, you just gotta be there. Even if you just got Discord on your phone and people can contact you. Even if it's just like a, hey, I have work the rest of the day. I go sleep when I get home. I'll contact you tomorrow. Something. You just need to be there for people to help them out, or at least have a mod team that knows your ideal well enough that when you can't be there for 3 days because you work 3 days straight and it's long shifts of 12, 14-hour shifts and you just don't want to be online right now, at least have a mod team that's going to be there for you to handle stuff when needed, and at least be able to respond to your mod team respectfully. A last thing I would like to mention for being a head mod, especially for your first time, is don't plan your project too big and don't go over budget. You want to keep to a smaller budget. And this means not planning out 2 books on the first go, not planning out multiple items and stuff to sell with it, merch bundles, not planning too many big merch stuff. Don't plan too many things that are going to cost a lot to produce and ship. You want to avoid having to spend out of project. You want to avoid spending out of pocket, I should say. Or I guess out of the project too. You don't want to spend too much from it when running the project. And this comes down to a lot of... This comes down to having a good finance mod that's reasonable to get stuff to it. And you could easily set goals like, alright, we want our biggest bundle to production cost to be $30, and work out with the other people of how much it is. Now, we've all seen projects do extremely well that can have tote bags and cool sets of washi tape and standee and enamel pins and everything else, and just be a really cool project and just have a lot of cool stuff. But that's usually because it's with people who have experience, knowledge. The zines doing extremely well. If you're ending your mod applications or your interest application with like 300 followers already, and you end your contributor followers with like somewhere between 500, you close contributor apps with somewhere between 500 and 1,000, you could probably guarantee on a good solid 200 sales, so you can plan to do a little bit more. But if you're under 200, I don't recommend doing a really big project for those kind of things. You're not going to, I mean, it's possible to make it, but you don't want to fall up short. You don't want to be able to send your contributors their full bundle. I would plan to have, before you plan to have a big bundle, plan to comp your contributors the full bundle. If you think that you can comp their full bundle and still do more, then go ahead. But this comes with having a good finance mod or a good knowledge of it. So if you're first zine, I mean, even if it's going to do real well and it's looking like it's going to do well, don't plan it to be too big. And this is especially if you are shipping and have not shipped zines before. I've shipped a few. I'm about to go ship some more in about a week or so from now. So I have knowledge on it. I've also shipped merch for a few years, so I haven't done a huge order of zines. It's always been like under 50 for me personally with shipping stuff. I'm going to be doing more of that to gear up for a bigger project that I'll probably be shipping a lot of stuff for. But it's just a lot of work, and planning too big and overwhelming someone with like proper precaution for wrapping stuff so it doesn't get damaged and your book doesn't get bent and all that fun stuff for shipping is not a fun thing to have to be worried about or scared for your first zine. So definitely keep it minor the first time. But there's some overview on head mods. This is just head modding. This is just coming from someone who has done it before. I'm going on my 4th time being a head mod. 2 of the projects are finished, or well, technically one finishes like tomorrow, but that's the same thing. And I've been a zine mod for other things. A lot of those are getting close to the end of production time for those as well, and I'm going on from there. So I will try to do some more helpful videos. I will probably do another mod video fairly shortly. Again, I have plenty of stock video for me showing off all my zines. I also have 2 unboxing videos coming real soon for zines. And I'm having another zine 2 other zines that should be coming in fairly soon. So I will do some videos for that and get those in line. I will try to upload weekly from here on out. It's been, so far I think it's been, every 3 weeks to a month. We're going to try to close the gap on that, especially since I'm getting videos ready a little bit more frequently. But without a further ado, that's what I have for you today. I hope you guys have a good day. I managed to keep this video under 20 minutes, which is also nice. So, ciao.